A lawyer and RA consultant walk into the bar. No joke. We both work in the medtech and we both run into the same questions. Between MDR, IVDR and now AI Act, there are a lot to discuss and we are comparing notes. Well, obviously, I'm the RA consultant. My name is Dina Lakayan. I'm the CEO and founder of Create Regulatory Affairs Consultancy.
And I'm the lawyer. I'm Cecile van Heijden and I'm attorney at Axon Lawyers.
Welcome, Cecile. Thanks for taking time to walk into the bar with me. So today we are talking about AI Act, specifically about medical devices. Let's start with the basics. How do medical devices are classified under AI Act? Is there the same as under MDR and IVDR? Can you tell us more about it?
So it's definitely not the same as under MDR and IVDR. The AI Act really only has for medical devices two classifications, high risk or low risk. Whereas under MDR and IVDR we obviously have 4 different risk classes. And most medical devices will qualify as high risk because they have to undergo a third-party conformity assessment, and the MDR and IVDR are listed in Annex 1. And an AI system is a component of either the medical device or the medical device is an AI in itself.
So what you're telling me, class 1 medical devices and custom-made medical devices are not falling under AI Act because they don't go through conformity assessment?
That is in principle correct. Also 1S, 1M and 1R devices are exempt from that because they do have to undergo a third-party conformity assessment. But there's one exception, and that is the fact that in addition to the general high-risk rules that we just discussed, there are also certain devices that weren't originally high-risk, but that are subject to a category listed in Annex 3 of the AI Act, which makes them high-risk anyway. And one of those categories is an AI system that is used for triage, so which patient has access to care. And even if it were a class 1 device, which I don't expect, but it could also be an in-house device, then that device, even if it's not high risk, under the general rules would still be high risk and would still have to undergo conformity assessment under the AI Act, even though it doesn't have to undergo conformity assessment under the MDR.
The first one is Article 6.1, and this is what you're adding.
Yeah, so this is Article 6.2 in combination with Annex 3.
Really insightful, I would say.
Yeah, and I don't think, especially hospitals, have caught on to this yet. Especially since they have in-house developed devices, that they are out of scope because there's no in-house rule and there's a reference back to the rules in the MDR and IVDR. I don't think they've caught on to this yet.
Both of us know that transitional periods are not as general as most people think. People think, okay, 2026, so we have a lot of time, we can relax. But what's actually happening, Cecile?
So the thing with 2026 is that there is a deadline in Article 111.2 of the AI Act that says if the device is on the market prior to the 2nd of August 2026 and it doesn't undergo significant design changes, it doesn't need to comply with the requirements for high-risk AIs under the AI Act. But significant design changes are not defined.
From 2 August 2026, basically they can be on the market forever if they don't do significant changes. That's what you mean?
Yeah, in theory. At the same time, for medical devices, you still need to do post-market surveillance, which includes looking at the changes you could make to the design.
But that's really interesting, Cecile, because MDCG 2025-6 specifically says changes to high-risk medical device AI that have been predetermined by the manufacturer and assessed at the moment of initial conformity assessment as part of the information contained in technical documentation shall therefore not constitute a substantial modification.
Yeah, so first thing, the recital to the AI Act, recital 177, says a significant design change is equivalent to a substantial modification, but that doesn't make it identical. So there's still the question, is there truly overlap? And then you also should wonder about situations where still could be a change that isn't predetermined. The AI Act doesn't say anything about when there is a significant design change. in that respect, it's good to fall back on the guidance. But if you have a self-learning device, or if you do post-market surveillance and you run into issues that you didn't think of beforehand, simply because of what happens once the device is actually used on the market, then you could still end up in a situation where there is a need for a design change that you didn't think of upfront. And that's the situation where you want to be aware of as a manufacturer.
And I am RA consultant, of course. I'm reading MDCG, so I have another challenging point for you. You mentioned about the 2026 deadline. So let me read it completely. AI systems that are part of medical devices or that are themselves medical devices are not classified as high-risk AI system prior to 2nd August 2027, and therefore Article 11.2 does not apply to them prior to 2nd August 2027. It is, however, to be assumed that Article 111.2 applies to such Annex 1 high-risk AI system by analogy for significant changes or after 2nd August 2027. If I read Article 111.2, for me it completely says something else. Can you explain?
I think it's good to go back to the actual AI Act, because MDCG guidance is just soft law. It's guidance. It can't overrule the law. Article 111.2 does say that the AI Act applies to operators of high-risk AI systems, so most medical devices, as we discussed, that have been placed on the market or put into service before the 2nd of August 2026, only if from that date there are significant changes to the design of AI system. The issue here is that the regime for high-risk AI systems only enters into force from 2nd of August 2027. That's a year after that deadline. And there is this vague limbo in between that is only relevant if the device was on the market before the 2nd of August 2026. For all other devices that are placed up on the market after that date, they can do significant design changes whenever they want, only they need to comply with the whole conformity assessment regime and the rest of the requirements of the AI Act after 2nd of August 2027.
But AI Act applies to medical devices from 2nd August 2027. So why should manufacturer comply before that date in 2026 while they actually have time until 2027? And that's what MDCG says as well.
So first thing, MDCG guidance, not binding. And it actually contradicts the AI Act here. So the AI Act obviously has precedence. It also says in the last sentence that they assume that the deadline should be 2027. So MDCG isn't certain anyway. If you would take this to a competent authority and then to court, for example with an enforcement action, you could end up in a situation that a court would say, no, look, it should have been read 2026. We have a lot of things that still need to be clarified. We need to know how the notified bodies that need to do the AI Act conformity assessment are going to be accredited, because there's a little add-on that they need to be accredited for. We need to have more insight into how the conformity assessment will align with the MDR and IVDR conformity assessment, which we also don't have. So there is a significant risk of a bottleneck that we also saw with MDR and IVDR entering into force and becoming applicable. But we also don't know yet. And the thing is, if the device is on the market, medical device AI systems on the market before the 2nd of August 2026, then you don't have to deal with this until you are making a significant design change. The significant design change you could hopefully plan for through the modification plan.
But what happens between 2026 and 2027? Can I make significant design changes?
Not according to Article 111.2, but according to the MDCG you can. I personally would follow the law.
So manufacturers, you need to have your AI devices on the market before 2026. That's completely strange.
It doesn't make sense. It's written really weirdly, but this is weird retrospective reading that you need to do of 111.
I see.
And it makes no sense. I fully agree with everyone there.
But if the manufacturer do the conformity assessment with the notified body before that date.
So under MDR or IVDR?
Yeah. so they basically can buy more time.
They can buy a significant amount of time and a way out of the whole bottleneck discussion.
How is the conformity assessment then works, and what should we do between 2026 and 2027?
By that date, you do need to have the AI system component undergo conformity assessment under the AI Act, which is supposed to tie into your MDR conformity assessment, or your IVDR conformity assessment, except that no one yet knows how that's going to look and what that's going to do for the certification timelines. Are you going to get a bit of a short AI Act add-on to your existing certificate, or are you getting a certificate with a shorter validity period, just to make sure that you can then for your next conformity assessment do a combined conformity assessment?
So what we understood, actually the transition period is not so passive.
You could wait, you just need to comply, and you have a significant amount of uncertainty because we don't know what's going to happen with the rollout and the accreditation and the timelines.
Well, Cécile, thanks for taking the time for this. We can talk about this obviously for hours, and we see if we can walk into that bar again.
So if the questions keep coming, we'll keep comparing notes.